Ray, thank you. Here now to talk more about it, trial attorney Brian Claypool. Brian, nice to see you in the new year. Thanks for giving us your time. To those asking the question, why are these documents being unsealed and why now? How would you answer that?
Yeah, hey, Marnie, Happy New Year. Great to see you. Yeah, so there's what's called a Freedom of Information Act, and apparently the Miami Herald a few years ago had filed a motion with the court to try to have these documents released. And the media oftentimes argues that the public utility of getting access to sealed documents overrides any privacy rights. And here, the trial judge agreed with the Miami Herald, and then years later, we finally have the release of these, what were previously confidential documents.
And many of the names, at least in the 900 pages so far, are still redacted. We named a few that are not. Why is that?
Yeah, because some of those names are of minors and potential victims. And Marnie, I work on a lot of civil sexual abuse cases involving minors. And oftentimes, for example, we'll get police reports, right, of an investigation of, for example, a teacher molesting a student. And boy, I'll tell you, we get those reports, Marnie, and 30, 40, sometimes 50% of those reports are redacted. Names are redacted, addresses of minors are redacted, and even witnesses that are minors. Those names are redacted, phone numbers are redacted, addresses are redacted. That's to protect the privacy rights primarily of minors.
Right, and an important reason to do so. Does releasing these documents, Brian, change this case in any way? Does it move the needle?
No, this doesn't move the needle at all. In fact, Marty, I'll give you an example. I live in Southern California. Oftentimes here, when we're expecting a big rainstorm, there's this buildup by the meteorologists, like, oh, there's going to be this incredible rainstorm, get your umbrellas, get the sandbags out. And then oftentimes it fizzles and it really isn't what it was portended to be. And that's really what happened here. We don't have any new names of victims, for example. That is something that would move a needle. We don't have a victim accusing somebody else of child sexual assault. We don't have a new witness in any of these documents saying, I observed an adult having sex or engaging in inappropriate activities with a minor. Those are two things that might have moved the needle. I don't see any of that. And even the comments alleged against Clinton, there's one against David Copperfield, the magician, about younger girls getting younger girls to engage in acts. That, again, hearsay, number one. And then number two, doesn't even mention the ages of any of the girls. And more important than that, Marnie, I don't think there are any ongoing criminal investigations of any individuals who are identified in these documents. And then last, you've got statute of limitations issues in a lot of states where this may have occurred. And some of this occurred out of our country.
Right. So to answer the question, would prosecutors be looking to pursue charges against other co-conspirators in this case? Unlikely based on what you've seen so far.
Yeah, Marty, absolutely not. There's not enough information in here that would be hardcore evidence to investigate and indict anyone. And I think the person who really could have shed some light on that at her trial is Ghislaine Maxwell. Remember, she had to make a decision in her defense in her criminal case, and she could have come forward and named a lot of alleged associates, potentially other perpetrators, and she didn't do that. And that's somebody who might have had some potentially credible information, but we don't have that. And there's not enough for prosecutors to do anything with this criminally.
So it leaves me wondering, is there a what's next in this case?
Yeah, great question. I'll give an example. Like in California, we have a statute of limitations for child molestation that's indefinite. So if something, for example, might have happened out here in California involving Epstein, Maxwell, and potentially another perpetrator, if a victim, that's the key, Marnie, we need a victim coming forward. If they came forward in California, there could potentially be an investigation and maybe an indictment. But that's really the key. Unless somebody comes forward with some new, and the key again is new information with some credible evidence, then we're not likely to see any further investigations. One last comment, Marty. I worked on a lot of these cases, It's hard for victims to come forward, especially after years go by. We know there's probably a lot more victims, but I've seen it in these cases. It's hard for adult victims to disclose. They're humiliated, they're embarrassed, and they're afraid they're not going to be believed.
Yeah, understandably so. Again, we expect more of these documents to begin rolling out over the coming weeks, but so far, it seems there hasn't been a whole lot revealed that we didn't already know. Brian Claypool, as always, thank you. Good to see you.
Yeah, thank you, Marnie. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.